Hi, I'm John Ray, and welcome to the Thriving Podcast. I'm your host and intuitive coach, dedicated to amplifying your intuition, transforming your mind, and igniting your inner magic to create a life you're obsessed with. 2 years ago, I was burnt out as fuck in a toxic relationship and a successful tech career that I just wasn't happy in anymore. I left it all behind with no plan, and now I'm running my own business, immersed in purpose and passion, happily married to my soulmate, and living out my dreams every single day. And if you're badass enough to be listening to this podcast, then you're already on the fast track to doing the same, babe. On this podcast, we'll dive into all things life, business, heart, mind, body, and soul, empowering you to uplevel your life and embody your happiest, healthiest, and hottest self. It's time to make idealistic your new realistic, because you're not just here to survive, you're here to thrive. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast. Happy Thriving Thursday. I'm on a new mic today. It's a fancy schmancy mic, and actually, real quick funny story on this. So first of all, I hope the audio is okay. I did like a tiny little test, but those tests are never super accurate. But basically, we're just trusting the process, which is perfect for the theme of today's episode. But yeah, the funny story is that I was like, this weekend, the eclipse I mentioned last week, eclipse energy is just like insane. And today is actually the day of the partial solar eclipse. So, when you're listening to it on Thursday, it was Wednesday, but I'm sure you're feeling it. This is where I think, again, I'm not an astrology expert. I always disclaim this, but I have been like exploring more and more because I do find it so interesting. It's almost like I've been forced to, like, I can't ignore it anymore. It's like I am feeling so affected by the energies that I'm like, okay, I want to understand like what is going on in the cosmos, because like I'm so connected to it that it's like, you know what I mean? But I think things are like starting to turn around a bit with the solar eclipse. It's still like a big time of release and letting things go, but there's like an element of rebirth coming into it now. So I think we're going to start to, kind of start to come into the new as we're still releasing the old. I know like eclipse season lasts for like the whole rest of the month, and there's something else happening later in the month. Again, I'm not totally well versed in it, but I'm sure we'll feel it, and we'll just go with the flow. Again, very, very fitting for the episode. But the reason why I got on that is because this past weekend, I just like had a total, I was like, oh my God, literally like nothing old in my apartment can stay. Like I need to purge everything. I got rid of so much stuff, did so much decluttering and cleaning and organizing. And I was like, I just want like things to feel more put together. And so one of the things, it's funny because I had an up level similar to this like a while ago when my laptop was sitting on a stack of books. And I was like, this just feels so messy on my desk. And I, just bought a $20 laptop stand for my desk, and it just feels so much cleaner, right? And it literally stresses me out less. And so my mic was on a stack of books, and it was a like cheaper like USB mic. So like it didn't have a stand. It wasn't high enough for me to just talk to comfortably. So I had it on a stack of books, but when I wasn't recording, or even while I was recording, honestly, like it would just kind of stress me out for it to like look so messy. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to like do the same thing, bite the bullet and buy like a $20 mic stand. And I was looking at mic stands, and then I just got down a rabbit hole about like mics and like, well, what kind of mic? Like the mic I had wouldn't fit in the mic stand because it had its own little mini stand, but it just wasn't like a tall stand. So I started like researching, and then I was like, oh, XLR mics are better. And I was like, maybe I should just get a better mic for my podcast, like overall up level. And so I'm like researching, it's like, what's a good XLR mic that's cheap? And I was like, I found AT2020 with like Audio Technica. And so I go on Amazon, I look up the AT2020, and I'm scrolling, and then I see the first result, and it's like, purchased January 2021. And I was like, this feels like a sad moment. I literally have this mic and I didn't realize. Turns out, yes, I purchased this mic back in 2021 when I don't know how many of you know this. Obviously, you guys know I'm into music. I play guitar, I sing, I play piano, like write songs. But there was a while where I was really trying to learn like production because I really wanted to like just be able to create my own song from start to finish, and I did. I was enrolled in a whole online school and everything, and I didn't go very far with it. I just had like way too much self-sabotage, and honestly, maybe it wasn't for me. I don't know. I kind of like haven't like dove deeper into those blocks because my priorities have shifted a bit for now, but I did end up producing some stuff and I bought all the equipment. So I have like an audio interface and like I have a fancy mic and a mic stand and a pop filter and a like one of those shield thing, a ton of stuff because I was literally trying to record my own music and I never really did, but I still have all the equipment. So I was like, oh, I already have this. Like, let me use the fancy mic. And then it just took me just now, like literally 25 minutes to set up and figure out how to actually use it. So hopefully the audio sounds better than normal, because if not, then that was pointless. But at least it is, I did get the stand to go with the mic, so I do feel a little more comfortable and cleaner and official, and my desk is a lot neater, so at least there's a win there. And I already had it, right? But I just felt like it was such a, like, it's funny because at that time in my life, I was like so trying to buy my way to happiness, and like I literally just like bought so much stuff and I was like, I don't even know what the fuck I like bought and what I have, and this felt like a little like remnant of that. Okay, I actually just paused the recording just to like listen back and make sure that it was actually recording and working before I get into like the meat of the episode, and it did work. But also like when I pressed stop on the recording, like my software like closed and like disappeared. But then I just like searched it and opened it back up and it was fine. So maybe this mic is like too powerful for the software, but it also seems to be working. So I don't know. I just pressed record on my voice memos too as like a backup just in case, like worst case scenario, which is funny because it's like me trying to like prepare and control the outcome. And the whole theme of this episode is actually the opposite of like how to let go of trying to control the outcome. But I think there's a balance, like with everything, right? It's like, and that's what life is, finding that balance of, yes, there are right things that are in our control, and that's what we want to focus on, and that's where we want to exercise our power. But it's when it comes to the things that are literally out of our control, right? So like right now, I'm doing everything like that is in my control. I'm showing up, I'm pressing record, and I have a backup plan. Right? But at the end of the day, like everything could still somehow go to shit. My house could burn down, my computer could crash, my phone could, whatever. I could record it and then lose the file. And that would be something that's out of my control. And it's when things like that happen, or like the possibility that things like that could happen, like that's what this episode is going to be about. Like, how do we basically not get stressed about that? Or how do we navigate that and handle that? A big theme of this eclipse is surrender and just letting things unfold and really not trying to force outcomes. I'm noticing a very collective theme with myself, with clients coming up around just this, kind of hyper masculine energy, really hyperhuman energy, because it's the hyper like brain energy of trying to rush to results, trying to rush the process, trying to rush to clarity, to answers, wanting to understand everything, wanting to control everything, and a lot of pressure coming up around that because we are trying to control and force so much, and that's that pressure, right? Is that force. So the funny thing is, like, none of us like feeling this way, right? Like, we hate being so obsessed with control. Like, we want to be able to go with the flow, right? Like, who doesn't want to be able to go with the flow, right? It's just that can feel so uncomfortable sometimes. And there's all different kind of sneaky ways that this can come up, ways that you try to hold on to control. It can look like really over preparing for something because you're trying to control the outcome of like you performing well, quote unquote, doing a quote unquote good job or being quote unquote successful. It can look like self-sabotage, actually procrastination, because you're keeping yourself in a familiar place. So you're trying to control your situation, because if you like actually go all in and try to work on making a goal happen, then you're going into the unknown and you're moving forward into the unknown and the unfamiliar. And then you feel like you're giving up your control. So it's almost like I can control my reality by staying where I am. It can also look like putting, like I said, insane amounts of pressure on yourself, trying to force or rush to results. It can look like overthinking and feeling super confused because, again, you're trying to control the answers. Like you're trying to force yourself to figure something out that's maybe not meant to be figured out yet. Or literally you could be actually blocking yourself from the clarity because you're trying to force the clarity so hard. It can also look like when something doesn't go the way that you wanted it to or expected it to, you really struggle to accept that, right? Like trying to control is really just a lack of acceptance, right? Surrender is just acceptance, and even more than that, it's allowance. Like, how can I come back into my seat of power and actually be okay with whatever is happening? It is what it is, right? And so it's being able to come back to that perspective and truly feel into that energy at every stage along the way, right? Before an experience, during an experience, after an experience. And there's kind of those two flavors, right? It can be, I'm trying to control because I want a specific outcome to happen really bad, like driven by being very attached to the outcome, or I want to try to control the outcomes just so that I know what the outcome will be, right? Like that addiction to prediction. I want to control it just so at least I know what to expect so that I don't have to go into the unknown or an unfamiliar situation because that feels scary and unsafe. And trust and surrender is really the remedy to either of those. And it's all kind of the same thing. So what I want to talk about today is a few of my favorite perspective shifts to help to shift out of this mindset. And then also from a somatic perspective, like what really is going on in the body and what the body needs to feel safe to go with the flow. And kind of like how you can utilize that to feel more comfortable leaning into trust and letting go of control. And we're also going to talk a little bit about how to lean into trust and how to build trust and what that looks like. I'm hoping that it's not going to be too messy today. I feel like I've been in a very rambly mood the past few days, and it's a very kind of broad topic, honestly, and I was wondering if I should try to make it more specific, but I don't want to. Because I truly feel like this comes up for everybody, and I definitely can talk about it more in specific context, like within a launch or with a specific event that could happen. I'll probably use examples throughout this, but I feel like I haven't really talked about this on the podcast yet. And because it's so relevant to like the energy with the eclipse right now, I feel like I just want to, talk about it from a more general standpoint. So, how to let go of trying to control the outcome. It's funny because the other day, somebody texted me and they were like, how do I not freak out about getting sick and missing this event? And I was like, you just remember that you can't control if you get sick or not. And so there's no reason to freak out. Like freaking out won't do anything for you. And she's like, well, like I could do this and this to like help decrease my chance. And I was like, perfect. Like we talked about like earlier with me recording it back up on my phone. Like you do whatever is in your control, and then you just like let go of the rest because you acknowledge that you literally cannot change it, right? Like you literally cannot control everything. And so I feel like a big thing is like, oh, how do I trust more and surrender more so that I feel like I don't need to control? And the thing is, you don't even actually need to trust. Trust helps 100%. But if you struggle with trust or like with trusting the process and trusting the universe, you don't actually really even need to lean into the trust. You just need to stop denying the truth of reality that you literally cannot control everything. You just need to accept that this is actually the way the world works, and you're fighting a losing battle by trying to control the outcome of anything because it's literally not in your power. Just inherently the way the world works, like there will always be things that you cannot control. And so it's kind of like funny when you think about it, like it's kind of silly when you really realize like, what am I even, like I'm literally fighting a losing battle. It's impossible for me to control this. So I'm literally like, it's pointless for me to put all this energy into trying to control it when I literally cannot. Like this is an impossible task, right? And like, yes, trust is one of the tools that helps us to accept that and helps us to feel okay with accepting that. But it's kind of like, well, like whether you trust or not, what else are you going to do? You don't really have any other option. So I feel like the first step with this is literally just realizing and acknowledging that's just the way the world works, right? You literally can't change it. It's by design. I always talk about the future being inherently unknown. And it's like you can choose to worry about what's going to happen in the future, or you can choose to not worry about what's going to happen in the future, because literally, like, it doesn't matter. Like, what's going to happen is what's going to happen. And of course, within our belief system, or what I believe and what I talk about with manifestation on this podcast, is like, actually, in the only way that it even does matter and does affect it is that by worrying, you could actively negatively affect it and make it the outcome that you don't want. So it's like either you have no impact, or by not worrying and by just believing the best will happen and literally trusting the process, you're creating a better experience for yourself. And I've actually had some people say to me like, well, I feel like I have to worry about it a little bit, because if it's like almost like I curse myself. Like if I don't worry about it and like acknowledge that it could go bad, then the universe will like laugh in my face and make it go bad because I didn't stop to worry about it. And what I say to that is, number one, everything is the story you tell yourself, right? So if you subscribe to that story that is true, that will be true for you, right? If you think I have to worry or else it's going to go bad, then you can manifest that. And also, if something, again, remember, there's no such thing as going good or bad. There just is, and the meaning you apply to it. And there just is the reality of the experience compared to the expectation that you set. So how can we let go of expectation? But if something didn't go the way that you necessarily wanted it to go or expected it to go, then it's just because there's a lesson you haven't integrated, right? There's a lesson the universe is trying to teach you. And it's actually a lesson that is literally required for you to learn and integrate in order to get to that desired result or expected result that you are actually wanting to happen, right? So it's like you always will be moving forward along that path, and you will be as close to the desired result as possible. And if your experience is not the desired result, it's just because it is a necessary step along the way to get you to the desired result. And I think it's actually important to acknowledge there's a difference between acknowledging fear and spiraling and energizing fear and doubt and worry and stress, right? And kind of getting stuck in a stress cycle. So I think it is actually a good thing to acknowledge things could go quote unquote wrong, right? Because we don't want to hide from that. That's actually the whole point, is we want to feel okay with the possibility of that reality and find acceptance with that. So I do think it actually is very powerful and effective to acknowledge it could go this way, it could go this way, it could not go how I want at all. But the difference is we don't want to then like energize that and kind of get stuck in a cycle or a spiral of, well, what if it happens? And like we start stressing and like getting anxious, because that's what's not serving anybody. So yeah, basically number one is to realize that you can't control everything. You literally cannot. So it's like there is no point in you trying, and you are fighting a losing battle. It is an impossible task. Just recognize that whatever you're fighting for is an illusion. All we're after is an illusion of control. And that's why I keep saying trying to control, not letting go of control, because you don't actually have it, right? And again, this is only about the things that are out of our control. Obviously, you have control over what you have control over. That's not what this episode is about, right? You have control over your inputs. You have control over your own actions and behaviors and choices and decisions. That's it. You don't have control over results, over anything in the external. And remember too, that even like within the things you feel like you have control over, I feel like sometimes we can even shame ourselves because it's like, oh, why didn't I do that? Why didn't I do that? Like we feel like something is in our internal control, but it may not even be in our conscious control, right? It might be in subconscious control. So, be aware of that also. So honestly, like the very, very first step is like recognizing what is in your control and what isn't. And then step two is like the rest of this episode. And then step one of step two is what we just talked about. Number two questions that I want you to ask yourself is, number one, what is driving my desire or need to control? And number two, what do I feel like I'm gaining by trying to control. And again, this is by what am I gaining by trying to control? Not what am I gaining by controlling? Because remember, you're not actually controlling, you're just trying to control. And you're trying to get an illusion of control, right? You're not actually controlling the things that are outside of your control because by definition, they're outside of your control. So what is driving my desire or need to control? What happens if I let go of this need? What happens if I do surrender and just let what will be? What happens if I do that? And this is where you can go into the specific context of any situation that you're in, right? Well, what happens if I do get sick and miss this event? Well, what happens if I do let up on control and I stop trying to force the results of my launch? Well, what happens if I do let go of the need to control how this experience plays out? And that is what's going to start to illuminate the fear underneath that is driving this urge. What happens if I stop trying to control the results of my launch? Now the fear will come up. Well, then it won't be successful and I won't get clients. Now we have a fear to work with. What happens if I do get sick and I miss this event? Well, then I'll feel left out. Well, then I'll be sad and disappointed about missing the event. Well, then maybe I'll shame myself that I went out and exposed myself to illness. What happens if I stop trying to control this situation and this confusion and stop trying to force the answer and stop trying to figure out my next steps? What happens if I just let go and let it come to me? Then maybe what comes through is, oh, well, then I might actually figure out what I want. And then maybe there's like a fear of success attached to that or a fear of failure. Or it's like maybe a fear of choosing wrong. Or like I just had a client today who was like, well, what happens if you actually let go of needing the answer? And it turns out it was like, well, then I might actually get the answer. And then I might actually pick something. We were talking about her niche, right? It's like, and then what if I picked wrong? And then what if I feel trapped in it? And then what if I'm unhappy? And so we start to uncover all of these fears that we're actually trying to protect ourselves from. That's what the control is. It's like a protection mechanism. And the funny thing is, we think we're trying to protect ourselves from an experience. You're really actually just trying to protect yourself from yourself. It's like the most hilarious thing. Because when you think about, all those fears and experiences and potential outcomes I just described, it's like we're literally just trying to protect ourselves from having an experience that does not match our expectations and desires. And why are we scared of having an experience that doesn't match our expectations or scared of not getting what we want, essentially? Why are we scared of that? We're not scared of the thing. We're scared of how that's going to make us feel. We're scared of our own reaction, which is amazing because going back to what is and isn't in our control, it's like, well, if all we're scared of is actually our own reaction and our own response to the situation, well, great, because that is something that actually is in our control. Now we're actually back in the realm of control and we can change how we choose to respond and react to something, right? We can choose to respond differently. We don't have to slip into shame or blame, right? That's the most common thing we're normally afraid of. And because even if it's another emotion that maybe you perceive as negative, as long as you're able to choose love and respond with love to yourself and the situation, right? And be able to hold that emotion and honor it, there's still nothing to be scared of, right? It's really honestly like we're often scared of slipping into shame because we hate shame. Shame is the opposite of love. We actually don't like feeling that. And so it's actually, we often are stuck in these shame patterns. And so we're really just afraid of something triggering that shame within ourselves. But that is something that we can work on and that is within the realm of our control. So we're not actually scared of the situation. We're scared of our reaction to it. Because if I was like, this is not going to go how you expect it to go at all, but you're going to feel great about it, you're not going to be scared of that. If I say you're not going to get what you want, but you're going to feel awesome and super happy, you're not going to be upset, right? But it's like we automatically associate and connect things not going the way I planned or things not going the way I want or things not going the way I expect with how we respond to that emotionally, right? Well, then I'm going to shame myself. then I'm going to feel disappointed, then I'm going to feel sad. We're actually scared of the negative emotion. This is honestly with everything, but it's like, think about it. You're not trying to protect yourself from the external thing. You're trying to protect yourself from that feeling that you don't want to feel. So the key is really if you can actually expand your capacity to hold those emotions and to be okay with, yeah, I might feel some disappointment, I might feel some sadness, then that need to control will naturally dissipate because there really won't be anything to be afraid of, right? Because you'll be okay truly with experiencing every feeling and every experience because, like, again, everything comes back to the way we feel, right? Every experience that we want or don't want, it's because we want or don't want to feel a certain way. So it's really about like expanding your capacity for all emotions. And really, this is where that self-trust piece comes in, because when it comes like trusting the process, trusting the universe, trusting the process is literally just self-trust. Like it's directly correlated to the amount that you trust yourself, right? And actually, it's funny, I heard this quote one time and it really, really stayed with me. And it was like, you're trying to control because you're not trusting the universe, right? You're not trusting the universe to handle the situation, or you're not trusting the universe to have your best interests or to go the quote unquote right way. So you're not trusting the universe. So you're trying to control it. But you are the universe, right? We all here believe that. You are the universe. So you're not trusting the universe and you're like, no, okay, I'll handle it. I'll control it just in case the universe gets it wrong. But you are the universe. So if you don't trust the universe, then you inherently must not trust yourself. And so it's like, well, you're not trusting the universe with it. So you're trying to control it. You're literally actively putting that control, at least you're perceiving that you're putting that control, you're trying to put that control into the hands of someone that you also don't trust, yourself. If you don't trust the universe, you're not trusting yourself. If you don't trust yourself, you're not trusting the universe. Like there is no separation. And so I feel like that in itself can be really eye-opening. Like, oh, kind of contradicting myself here. I'm not trusting the universe to get it right, and I'm trusting myself to get it right, but I am the universe. So I don't trust either of us. So like might as well just put it in the universe's hands so I don't have to worry about it, right? Like if I trust us both the same amount. And when you start to kind of point out the contradictions, because there's always contradictions, anything that's not in alignment with truth is going to always be contradictory. And when you really can start to point those out, that's how you can really start to deconstruct those kind of like belief systems that are running and start to realign with truth. And so it's actually like coming back to what I was saying about you're actually just scared of your reaction, how you're going to feel in response, how you're going to respond to whatever happens. If you're not trusting, where are you not trusting yourself and trusting that you'll be able to handle whatever happens? Like you're scared of an outcome that you don't want or can't predict because you're scared that you won't be able to handle it. You're not trusting that you'll actually be able to navigate that situation. You're trying to control it now because you don't trust your ability to navigate it later. Have a little more faith in yourself, babe. You can handle anything. Can you tell me one situation, one experience that has happened your entire life that you have not found your way through, that you have not figured out a way to navigate? And that you are not better for having experienced and navigated, that you have not grown from, that you aren't better for having gone through? No, you can't, because you wouldn't be here if you hadn't. It's that classic, I think it's Tony Robbins, right? You have a 100% success rate of making it through. So look at all of the reasons you actually have to trust yourself. Think about all of the super challenging times and super difficult emotions that you have gone through and experienced and felt. And think about how you got through every single one of those. And you can even think back. This is like to get a little more tangible with how can we really start to build that self-trust and feel that trust, right? And because again, I can tell you, I can speak at you, you can know logically, right, all of this, but it's another thing to embody it and really feel it. So, reflect back on the hardest times in your life and ask yourself, what is it that got me through those times? What is it that got me through? Like, what is the number one thing? Or what one time, one of my coaches, I think she said this maybe in a meditation or something, she called it like your key codes to success. And she was like, this was my coach, Nora. And she was like, what are the top 3 things that got you through those most challenging times, right? Pick the 3 most challenging experiences you've ever gone through, and then identify what are the 3 things that got me through to the other side of that situation. You'll probably notice very common themes, right? And those are your superpowers, right? Those are your keys to success. Those are your strengths. That is how you get through. And so now you know this is what I can come back to, right? When I'm afraid of a certain situation happening or something not going the way that I want it to go, or I can't prepare for something and I can't control an outcome and I want to control it, I can remember, hey, no matter what happens, I know how to get through because look at all these things that I've got through and this is how I got through. I have a roadmap for how to navigate it, literally. So identifying for you personally what is driving your need or desire to try to control the outcome in the situation, breaking that down, working with the fear like you would with any other fear that comes up, and really coming back to your own power and your own trust in yourself. And remember what a fucking badass you are, right? You can handle it. You'll be okay, right? Like you will be okay. So that's the first part. And then the second question was, what do you feel like you're gaining by trying to control, right? Because again, there's always a feeling that you're probably trying to feel by trying to control, right? So it could be you are trying to feel powerful, right? Like maybe you don't feel like you're in your power, and so you're trying to control because you think that will make you feel powerful, right? And it's like, well, again, going back to like reflecting on past experiences, it's like the best handbook, right? Because it's like literally, this is my life and my experience. When have I felt the most powerful in my life? I actually did this recently, and it was very powerful for me because I realized that all the times that came to mind when I felt the most in my power were the times that I was expressing myself very vulnerably and very authentically. And I was like, oh shit. Right? Because often we can kind of feel like the powerful thing to do is to kind of like, be strong and put on a strong front. But actually it's like, oh, I actually feel the most in my power when I'm like really being vulnerable, expressing myself. So like think back to like, when have I felt the most powerful in my life? And how can I bring more of that into my life now so that I feel in my power? And I'm not trying to grasp at an illusion of feeling in power by trying to control things. It may be that it's a feeling of safety that you're trying to get, right? So again, like, how can I prioritize feeling safe in my body every single day? This is a big one because a lot of people who are trying to control, they could be very anxious, right? And their nervous system is just not very regulated. They don't have a large window of tolerance or a large capacity, right? So it can be like, how can I prioritize my nervous system health and feeling safe in my body every single day? Whether that's with literal exercises and tools, breathing, somatic practices, if that's maybe changes that you need to make in your life, right? Boundaries you need to set, relationships that you need to change, or, making more time and space for yourself. What do I need to feel safe already at a baseline? So again, I'm not trying to grasp for this illusion of safety by trying to control the situation. And this can be really tricky because I'll try to think of a personal example. I feel like when I find that I'm really trying to control something or really trying to over prepare for something, right? It's because I'm worried that I'm not going to do my best. It's like, well, I know that I can do this really well. So what if I don't do it as well as I know I can do it? And then I could be like, well, I'm just afraid of not doing my best. It's just because I know what I'm capable of, right? But really, it's actually, that's already based in a myth, in a falsity of that it would be possible for me to do anything less than my best. You are literally always doing the best that you can do in any given moment. No one is ever intentionally trying to not do what they want or to do something badly, right? And there literally is no such thing as failure, right? You're always making the best choice you can make in any given moment. You're always taking the best action and making the best decisions you can make in any given moment. You're always performing to the best of your ability. And so It's like literally when I trace that back, I'm like, well, because then I'm afraid that I'm not going to do a good job and I'm going to do worse than I think I can do. And then it's like, why am I holding myself to an unrealistic standard? Or because what's going to happen if I don't do as well as I think that I could have done, right? I'm going to shame myself. I'm going to feel disappointed in myself. So those are those fears that are driving it. And it's like, what am I trying to gain by preparing? I'm trying to gain confidence, right? And it's like, how can I source that confidence from within? How can I source that trust in myself and my own abilities without needing to overly prepare to feel like I'm going to do a good job, right? I'm trying to gain confidence in myself and that I'm going to do a good job. The funny thing is, every time I over prepare for something, then I totally wing it, right? So it's literally just like, I need the preparation to like feed the fear and like calm my nervous system to be like, no, you're fine. And that's okay. But it's like I was just saying, how can I build the trust and expand the capacity of my nervous system to feel safe and comfortable with not being over prepared? And again, that doesn't mean like don't prepare. Again, do what's in your control. I'm not saying you have to go into every experience and completely wing it. And just fly by the seat of your pants, unless that's how you thrive. Prepare, but recognize when you're starting to go over the line into fear mode and trying to control mode. Instead of, I'm preparing in a way that is supporting my ability to show up as my best self. I hope that makes sense. So those are a few examples. That's the second question I would ask, though, is what do you feel like you're gaining by trying to control? Or what are you chasing? Like, what are you trying to feel by trying to control? And how can you give yourself that feeling another way? So those are the two questions I would ask yourself. You can journal on it, you can reflect on it. And those are some examples of what it might look like to dive into those questions. Okay, so we've touched on, the root cause, right? What you're trying to gain, what is driving the need to control. We talked about self-trust. We talked about what you're really afraid of why you're really afraid of something not going the way that you expected to go. And so now I want to talk a little bit more about actually trusting the process and surrendering. And then again, I want to go a little bit more into like how we can really, again, integrate this into the body from a somatic perspective, because again, easier said than done, right? So the last thing I want to say about trusting the process is I want you to go back and listen. If you find is a lot of the time we just start taking things way too freaking seriously, right? And it's really coming back to the reminder, like, it's not that serious. It literally is not that serious. I have an episode on this. I think it's called like Simple A Mindset Shifts that will instantly quantum leap you into a new timeline or something like that. It's actually one of my most downloaded episodes. So go back and listen to that if you find this challenging sometimes, but it's literally not that serious. At the end of the day, we are all gonna die, right? You have only one life, so you may as well live it to the fullest, right? You may as well prioritize joy and fun and peace and play, because that's what we're here for. And love for yourself and everyone else, because when you get to be 80 years old and you look back on your life, like, what are you gonna wish you prioritized more, right? And it's really remembering these little things we stress about and try to control. It's like, it's just not what matters really to us. It's just not really what's actually important. So it's really just like giving yourself that reality check. Some people I think can be scared to take that reality check. And I say embrace that reality check, right? Because it really helps to put things back in perspective really quick, right? Like come back to gratitude. Again, when you're trying to control, it's like because you're feeling like I need or want something else. And I want to control this outcome so I can have the thing I want. So coming back to gratitude and being like, oh my God, everything I already have, that's so amazing and I'm so grateful for. Like I've kind of been like, oh my God, like I'm like obsessing over like wanting this thing. Not like it's greedy to want things, right? But it's like, I have so much to be grateful for. Like if this thing doesn't work out, like I'll be okay. There are so many other things that I'm so grateful have worked out the way that I wanted them to. And like also, giving yourself grace and compassion, letting yourself be disappointed, and just remembering that there is no failure, right? There is no something going wrong, right? There is just a lesson that needs to be integrated first. It's just lessons. Failures and things going wrong are just lessons. They're just stepping stones along the way. You literally cannot get to the place you want to be without going through them. And remember, if you keep going, like if there's something you want, it'll happen as long as you keep going and believe that it'll happen. And, I know FOMO is like a big thing because sometimes it's like, well, no, this is a once in a lifetime thing. And like, that's when we tend to try to control the most, right? When we're like, no, I can't have this again. And it's like, no, literally, you can have anything you want, right? You're the co-creator of your reality, girl. You can literally have anything you want. Maybe you can't have that specific experience again, but whatever it is you feel like you're missing, you can have that and more. You can feel that every day of your life if you really prioritize it, And I think what can be really helpful with this too is kind of coming back to like, who do I think I am? Like to think that I know the best way, like kind of take yourself down a notch and like drop the ego a bit and be like, why do I think that I know the best outcome for this? Remembering that we actually have such a limited perspective and even capacity to like imagine or conceive of what could be possible. And the universe is literally a world of limitless, infinite possibility. And it's like, how much are you actually closing yourself off from potentially by thinking things have to go a certain way according to your limited imagination, right? When actually there could be so many more miracles and so much more possibility available to you that you're not even aware of. So it's like, where is my expectation even coming from? What if I don't actually know the best way for this to go? And really dropping the expectation and just taking more of a curious approach to life, right? Like, how can I walk through life with more curiosity and just being open to new experiences and being open to being proven wrong? It's almost like this thing of, I need to be right. I know the best way for this to go, so I need it to go this one way. And it's like, do we really even want to be in that energy of like, I know the best, right? We don't even want to be that closed-minded. And that's actually what's happening is like, if something doesn't go according to our expectation, do we want to really think that we know everything? Or do we want to be like, I'm open to being proven wrong because then I can learn something and I can be open to something new and I can be shown a better way? I just saw Newsies like 3 times last weekend, and a line from the show is, I'm going to not get the exact line, but it's something like a good leader doesn't have to have all the answers. They just have to have the smarts to recognize the right one when they hear it or something like that. And so it's kind of that idea of actually you can be even more in your power by admitting that you may not actually know the best way for this to go and being open to being shown a better way. And that is what's happening if something doesn't go according to your expectation is you are being shown a better way or you're being shown a different way, right? That is going to ultimately lead to a better outcome. You're being led down a higher path than you could have even perceived of. You're being opened up, you're being expanded into a new reality that you couldn't even conceive of before. So it's like, do I really think that I know better than the universe? How many times have things gone better than you could have imagined? If you like think back again to your past experience, and how many times has something gone seemingly wrong and then it ended up leading you to an even better experience than what you had planned for yourself? It's like, to use a very simple example, imagine you ask the universe for a lollipop or you want a lollipop, right? What you're expecting and wanting to happen is like to manifest a lollipop, right? Simple example. And imagine the universe like literally giving you a gift, like a wrapped up gift box with a bow, and you open it and you're like expecting a lollipop. You're like, lollipop, lollipop, and you open it and there's no lollipop inside. There's just a key. And you're like, what the fuck? I don't want a key. I didn't ask for a key. And you're kind of like stomping your feet. Again, like coming back to gratitude. Like you're not being grateful for the gift you did get. You're not being open. You're not being curious. But like, why did you give me a key? What could I use this key for? And you're just be like, I wanted a lollipop. I don't want this stupid key. You forget about it. But it's like, actually, maybe that key was to a room that was full of lollipops, right? And so you're like, universe is actually wanting to give you an abundance of lollipops. And you and your limited conception of what you were asking for, what you were expecting, were like, I want one little lollipop. And the universe is like, I'm going to give you a whole room of lollipops. Like, just take this key and open it, right? But if you're not open and curious and grateful, like, oh, cool, I got a gift, right? It wasn't a lollipop, but it's still a gift. Cool, it's a key. I wonder what I can use this for. Then you never get to the room full of lollipops, right? And so it's like just a very simple example of how you don't know how much better it can get. And just being grateful for every opportunity to actually be shown how much better it can get. And to take this a step further, actually, if something goes exactly how you planned it and how you expected it to go, then you must not be expanding. You must not be growing, because that means that you are only creating experience that you've already experienced and were able to perceive of. So actually things going not according to your expectations, whether you perceive it as good or bad, is literally just a sign that you are expanding, because you're either getting another lesson to allow you to expand into new levels of self and new realities, to create new experience that you haven't had access to before, or it's going to go even better than you could have imagined, which is also opening you up to new levels of self and new realities and literally actively expanding you. So it's like, you don't want things to go the way you expect and the way you plan it to go, because that would just be kind of proof that you're staying at the same level. You don't want to stay stagnant and just stay where you're at and stay in the same timeline. You want to be shifting timelines. And so you have to actually have experiences that are beyond what you could have predicted if you are expanding into higher timelines. It's like, do I actually want to be able to predict everything? Or do I want to be pleasantly surprised, or even just surprised, right? And given opportunities to expand. That's all these unexpected experiences are opportunities to expand. And you don't want to stay small and stagnant. You don't want to be able to conceive of every possible way it could play out, right? You want to open to possibility. You want miracles, and you want to keep growing and expanding. And that just like completely came to me just now. That's the first time that perspective has ever come through on this topic for me in that way. So I love that. So if you needed any more support for letting go of your expectations, and yeah, just remembering it's not that serious. It's all just, we're here to play. Like, it's fun, right? It's for shiggles. And it's just that playful energy, right? And if you have trouble accessing this playful energy, it's like you're probably not playing that much in your life, right? How can you actually bring more play into your life, right? Like, let your inner child out. And I actually heard this phrase the other day that was really fun. It was like, this girl was like, you know, every time I'm stressed about something, or something goes how I didn't plan it to go, and I just like say to the universe, well, if you're not worried, neither am I. Well, if you're not stressed about it, I'm not stressed about it. And it's kind of that, like, you know, treat the universe like your bestie, because it really is your bestie, right? Like, it's always conspiring in your favor, and it's just not that serious at the end of the day, you know? We are literally floating on a giant rock through space. Like, humanity's only existed for like a few hundred years, more than that. But like, I don't know, but like not that very long of a time in comparison to like the whole universe, right? So like, you know, our little human problems is just, I personally find that perspective shift super powerful. And even with the big things, like I was just watching some videos of like people who are affected by the hurricane in North Carolina right now, which was like so tragic and scary and awful. And I was watching this video of this one couple, and they took a whole video of their house, like they were preparing, right? Doing what was in their control before the hurricane. And so they packed up everything they could that was really important to them into a U-Haul, and they were like evacuating, and everything else that they had to leave in their house, they packed it all up as well as they could and put it up, you know, on tables and elevated it as much as they could to try and minimize the damage as much as possible. And then, you know, that she's going through like showing everything and just like laughing at it, right? And just like, I loved their attitude. You know, she's like, oh, that's our TV. We had to leave the TV. We'll see if it makes it. Probably won't. Oh, there's our new dining furniture. Probably not going to make it. You know, just like the attitude of acceptance, right? And it was just so beautiful to see, because it's like, what do you have to lose by embracing that? What do you have to lose by having that attitude of acceptance and just allowing things to be what they are and allowing what's going to happen, right? And you can always see the gift and find the gift and the lesson in it. So again, it's finding that balance of allowing your emotions and also finding the gift and embracing the perspective shift when you're ready for it. They had an after video too, when they were looking at the damage, and almost all their stuff was ruined. It was like way worse than they expected, right? But she had the same exact attitude, you know? They were laughing, making jokes, because it's like, what else can you do, right? If something doesn't go the way you plan, like, well, you can be super upset and mad about it, like stress yourself out wishing that you could have changed the past, or you can accept that you literally can't change the past, right? Lion King, GIF. It's in the past, it doesn't matter. And you can take the gift and the lesson and how can I move forward, right? And make lemonade out of lemons, or whatever that expression is. It really is that simple. And I think that's a big thing is like we just overcomplicate a lot as humans, and we don't have to overcomplicate it, right? It's just acceptance. And it's what do I need to be able to accept? Why can't I accept? What is my resistance? This is another question you can ask. What is my resistance to accepting and allowing this to be true? Why do I refuse to accept that this is true? Because again, by doing that, like you're literally just denying reality. It's like you literally saying, no, I refuse to accept that the sky is blue. I refuse to allow this sky to be blue. Well, the sky's blue either way. Everyone else in the world is just going to continue operating with that being true. The sky is blue, right? So you can like live in your grumpy little world refusing to accept that the sky is blue, or you can accept it and like move on with your life and enjoy the blueness of the sky. That's honestly what it is. And I don't mean to like minimize. I know like every situation is different, but that really what it is at the end of the day. It's like that reality check of like, well, it is what it is at this point, and it's going to be what it's going to be, right? Whether you're stressing about something in the like a pre-stress or like post-stress, right? I know we do both. It's like, well, I can't change it. The part of you that's refusing to accept that, just honor that part. Like, why am I refusing to accept that? And what would I need to be able to accept that? What would I need to be able to allow this to be true? And that's really that trusting the process piece, right? It's like, how can I see the bigger picture and trust that this is still in alignment with my highest path and my highest good? What do I need to be able to allow? Trusting the process and surrendering is just accepting and allowing. So what do I need to be able to accept and allow my experience to be what it is? Most of the time, that's going to be, I need to know that it's going to be okay. Like, well, in order to accept this being true, I need to know that it's okay and safe for me to accept it. And again, how can we source that inner safety? And again, look back to your past experiences. Well, it's always been okay up until this point. Why would it suddenly change now? And what do you really need to be able to accept it and allow it is to know, like, what do you need to know that it's going to be okay? Like, what does okay mean, right? You need to know you're not going to die. Most of the time, that's pretty easy to confirm, right? Is it you need to know you're going to be able to feel at peace again? Because, like, again, this is coming back, like, you know that you will, right? Again, trusting yourself and your ability to navigate. And then the thing is, I know that most of you listening to this, you do truly trust, right? Like theoretically, you really do trust the process, right? Most of us aren't actually questioning theoretically if we can trust the process. We truly already believe on a fundamental level that the universe is always conspiring in our favor. We're always supported, right? And everything that happens is bringing us closer and closer to our goals and aligning us to our highest and truest path. So we know that. And so this is the last piece I wanted to talk about is how do we embody that and really bring that trust into the body so that we can truly feel in flow and surrendered and safe to go with the flow and feel in our power. Because honestly, it's like trying to control, you're really suppressing your feelings of freedom. And when you actually surrender is when you actually start to feel free and actually feel in control. That's the actually only way to really truly feel like you have control over your life because you are okay with anything that could happen. So there's nothing that could like shake you, right? So the best way, I'm going to give you one simple embodiment practice for this. And I could go on and on about building self-trust all day long, but this embodiment practice is going to be super, super powerful. Literally just take the time. This can take like 5-10 minutes every day to ground yourself, right? Come into your body, like do whatever process you do to drop into your body. Take deep breaths, do some shaking, maybe some tapping, deep breathing, put on some music if you want to, and just drop your awareness into your body and just connect to the part of you. That could be your higher self. That could be just, another version of you. You could look at her like an alter ego. You could be just connecting to like God, the universe, source, like to just love. Just connect to whatever resonates with you, that version of you. It could be a future version of you, just the super confident, surrendered version of you. Call her in. You will be able to call her in and connect to her when you just call in that energy and just call her in and just notice where you start to feel that energy activate in your body. And notice what kind of sensations and emotions you connect to that energy. And if you don't start to feel a part of your body activating and you don't start to feel any sensation shifting when you call it in, if you're not really used to doing practices like this, then just try to identify a part of your body that feels free, that feels light, whatever kind of sensations you connect to feeling surrendered and going with the flow, right? Identify a part of your body that feels flowy, that feels loose, that feels calm, relaxed, at peace, that, right? Or you can like do both of these together. You can be like, okay, well, noticing where I'm feeling light, where I'm starting to feel open, where I'm feeling free in my body. And then just bring your awareness to those sensations and start to allow that energy to just get bigger and bigger and take over your entire body. And start to let that energy really like take the wheel and move your body into a literal posture, right? So this is like when you do Superman pose or 5-second star, things like that. Like you are literally embodying that energy and it's so, so powerful and effective. So just take, again, 5 to 10 minutes to let that energy take over your body. And it can be really helpful to bring in visuals. Imagine like this version of you who is totally surrendered, totally cool with whatever's going to happen, right? She's like, for me, like I feel like she's always this like cool, like older sister vibe. Like she's just so chill or out, like joy from inside out. Like it's like bring in whatever, or even it could be, like, again, like coming back to love, like someone in your life that like always is so encouraging and uplifting to you, right? Whatever is accessible to you to help connect to that energy and visualize what do they have to say about the situation if it goes bad, right? And like, how do they navigate challenges? How does this version of you navigate challenges? And what does it look like for her to be surrendered and for her to let go of control? And why doesn't she feel a need to control? Watch her in situations where you feel a lot of pressure or feel a lot of force and feel like you really need to control something. Visualize, like, how is she moving through it? How is she feeling when this happens? How does she know it's going to be okay? Where does her confidence come from? Really start to connect to that. And as you visualize it and feel into it, you'll feel the feelings like grow more and more in your body as you let your body actually shift into the posture that energy is bringing to you. And then let yourself just stay there. And it's often going to be a very open posture, very relaxed posture, right? And you'll notice the longer that you stay in that posture and stay in that energy, the more normal it will feel, the safer it will feel, the more at home you'll feel, the more free you'll feel. And you'll notice how good it feels and how this actually feels like what is really true to you and where you want to be. And you'll realize that your body has been thinking that this needing to control and this stress and this worry and this anxiety was the safe place to be. I need to stay in this energy and try to control so that I feel safe. And when you actually let yourself just spend 5 to 10 minutes in this other energy, in this other literal embodied shape of this energy of surrender and in your power, in trust in yourself, you will immediately feel like this always happens in clients. I'll have them do this. And then if I say to, go back to the other place or like, how we were feeling before, it's immediate no. It's like, oh my God, no, I don't want to go back there. That feels awful, right? I thought that felt safe, but this feels so safe and so good. Like that I realized is not safe at all. That's actually because I felt unsafe, right? So I was actually trying to I was stuck in that cycle because I felt unsafe there. And I feel so safe here where I'm actually so surrendered. And I feel so in my power where I'm actually just literally trusting. So literally 5 to 10 minutes a day, just let yourself be in that energy and in that full embodiment of that version of you. And what you're doing is you're really just like in short spurts over time, showing your nervous system it's safe to be here, right? This is like embodied visualization essentially, right? Like with any goal you're trying to manifest, you can literally just spend time every day pulling up those feelings in your body and visualizing it and imagining it. Remember, your brain can't tell the difference between imagined and real. Show your nervous system it's safe to be here. This is actually where we want to be. This is our new emotional home. This is what feels safe. This is where we want to be. We don't actually want to be there. I thought I wanted to be there. And now when you're in the other place, you realize how much you actually don't want to be the place you thought you wanted to be. So that's how you can really integrate it into the body, and you'll feel the trust. You'll just feel it, right? Because again, we can't just tell ourselves, just trust, right? We can only feel the trust. And that's how you can really start to feel it and feel so connected to your truth and your inner guidance and everything beautiful. So that is my one embodiment practice I will give you for now that you can practice daily to really help to open yourself up to surrender. There's so much more I could say about this. Oh my God, like literally just what can you do every day to slow down, like connect to your divine feminine, intuitive movement, trusting yourself with little decisions, all that stuff comes into play. But this was more of just kind of like broader, just perspective on, letting go of control and surrendering to the universe and trusting the process, trusting yourself, expanding your capacity for all emotions, the full spectrum of emotion. Because remember, you guys, you can only feel joy to the extent that you can feel sadness. It's all related. So I know this was like a little bit of a vague episode, but I feel like we also got some tangible tips in there. And I feel like, this is a very strong theme right now. So hopefully with everything that's going on with the eclipse, if you're being called to remove things from your life, or if things are maybe just being plucked out of your life, or you're going through a challenging time, just remember, you don't have to try and force the answer. You don't have to figure it all out. You literally can just let it be. And if you feel resistance to letting it be, ask these questions, right? Do that embodiment practice and just come back to what's the worst that's going to happen, right? And trace the fear back. And remember, at the end of the day, you're not going to die. You're still going to love yourself. You're going to be okay, right? And that's really all that matters. Remember that it's going to be okay no matter what. And also, okay is honestly subjective, right? There's no objective, good or bad. It's all the meaning you apply to it. And so come back to your power. Remember what gives you power. Remember where you source your power from. Remember what a badass you are, and you have nothing to be scared of. Because you can make it through anything. You have a 100% success rate of making it through. Also, go back and listen to, I think it's episode number 7 maybe, but it's called the No BS method of detaching from your manifestation or something like that. And that will help you also with that energy of detachment from the outcome, because attachment to outcome is literally the reason why we try to control things. And again, I talked about a lot of it here, though. It's really just comes all back to the feeling. But that episode is really, really a good one. I want to do another episode kind of about trust and holding the belief, when you don't have proof, because I ended up going on a whole impromptu, literally did a whole podcast episode in my car the other day. And I was like, man, why wasn't I recording this? This was so good. And it was basically 7 tips or 7 ways to hold a belief and trust the process, that your manifestation is happening even when you have no proof it's going to happen. So I'm going to try and do that over the next couple weeks. That'll really be a good complement to this as well. But I hope this was helpful. Honestly, I'll be really real. Like I said, my energy has just been so wonk and all over the place this week. I feel like I don't even know what I just talked about. But, I surrender to whatever this episode's going to be, what it'll be. And I've done everything in my control to make it the best episode that I can make it. So one more thing I will say, if you haven't seen on Instagram, I think I've talked about it a little bit on the podcast, but CEO Frequency, my business, Maven Mind, it's a mastermind, okay, but I'm calling it a Maven Mind. I'm interchangeably using the terms because I know people don't realize, I want people to recognize, yes, it's a mastermind. I'm calling it a Maven Mind. It's the same thing. So what the program is. But the whole idea behind it is we are breaking the stereotypes and breaking out of the business boxes and the norms and the rules that don't feel good to us. And really this idea of freedom in business and leaning into trust and doing things your way and not feeling like you need to put so much pressure on yourself or try to force yourself into these strategies that don't feel aligned, that everyone else says you have to do, that you think you have to do, but you really don't want to do them and you feel really icky doing them and nothing feels good in your business, right? That very stereotypical, again, results focused, literally trying to control and manipulate sales, very masculine, dominant perspective. And bringing back the freedom and the flow and the play and the creative expression and the intuition and the embodiment into entrepreneurship and really remembering that entrepreneurship gets to be fun and feminine and flowy and playful and juicy and exciting. And I feel like mastermind just feels so associated, like that word, to that stereotypical like former that I was just describing. And Maven Mind feels spicier and like more out of the box. And that's the energy we're going for. So anyway, that is on early bird right now until this Monday. So I think that's October 7th. So if you feel like you tend to be very dominant in your masculine energy in your business, or you feel like you've just gotten sucked into everyone else who is so dominant in that energy and you've put a lot of pressure on yourself and your business, you find you get really stressed really easily, very attached to results and trying to control the outcome, especially like in launches and trying to get clients. You feel awkward with sales and you feel like very icky and like everything feels forced and not aligned. And you know that in your heart, you really want to embrace a more creative, free, multi-dimensional approach to business, an intuitive, embodied approach to business where you break all the rules and you get to do things your way and make your own rules and let your business be what you want it to be, and know that sales and marketing don't have to feel boring and icky, right? They can actually be fun and exciting and feel really easy and natural. And that there is a different path for everyone, and you following your unique path and doing what feels true to you and what feels good to you in your business and focusing on your energy over anything else and literally aligning to the CEO frequency, right? And not getting so caught up in the 3D. Again, not that 3D is not important, but it's a balance, and we're all of us pretty much are like honestly just getting way too caught up and going way far over the line, and we think that's balance, and actually like we don't realize that we can have so much room to pull back and come back to energetic alignment and frequency, because at the end of the day, everything is energy. And when you are aligned to the frequency of the thing you want to manifest, you will manifest it. It really is that simple. And this mastermind, Maven Mind, is literally the program that I wish I had when I started my business a year and a half ago, because I did the strategy course, I did the energetics course, I had a program that was spirituality, I had a program that was strategy, I had a mentor who did embodiment, and it was all different places. I was so spread out, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is the key to success, is combining all three of these things. You need all three. And yeah, you could be successful with just one or just the other or just two of them, right? But this is truly the only program I know for entrepreneurs, creatives, coaches, healers, artists who are trying to build a brand and a business and a community online and just feel like the way that you see everyone else doing it does not fit you, and feel like you've just been missing pieces because you don't have the blend of this holistic support, strategy, spirituality, and somatics. So that's just a little bit about what the program entails. I'm super passionate about it, as you can tell. If you want to learn more about it, you can send me a DM or go to my page. I have a post pinned to my Instagram page right now that has a bunch of details about the program, what it includes, and who it's for, and all that good stuff. Again, if you have any questions, just send me a DM. I'm going to be posting about it more, of course, over the coming weeks. We start mid-October. Again, it is on early bird special right now, though, just until Monday. So this will be coming out Thursday, so just a few more days. And the early bird includes monthly one-on-one sessions with me, which is already like $2,000 in additional value. And honestly, the one-on-one sessions, I know I've said this over and over, they are just invaluable. How deep that we can go in a one-on-one. I mean, we will go deep in the group coaching, of course, but the one-on-ones are just like, it's such like, I have had one-on-one support in addition to my group support and I couldn't even imagine not having it. It's just such an amazing compliment. It really helps to accelerate your growth so much. So I'm literally including those for free with the early bird. And the early bird also, you get an additional $600 off of the already extremely discounted base rate, because this is the premier round. This is the first time I am bringing this program into existence, right? So you get the benefit of just literally it being the first time. We know it's going to be fucking powerful. We know it's going to be insane, right? But because this is the first time that I'm ever running it, right? Like you get the benefit of the discount of that, right? 6 months from now, like after this first round is over, after we've experienced the power of this program for 6 full months. Also, I'm in the process of getting a somatic certification, so I'll be deepening my skill set even more. So the value of this program is just going to keep going up and up. So if you're thinking, oh, that sounds amazing, like maybe later, just know that it's like, thousands of dollars you'll be leaving on the table. Like if you're feeling the call, why not explore it, right? That's all I want to say. Of course, as always, follow your heart, listen to your intuition, do what feels aligned to you, make the most expansive decision. But if it does sound interesting to you at all, and that sounds like the way that you want to do business, I would absolutely love to have you in the program. So I don't think I said the price, but yeah, over $600 off. So the early bird price that ends on Monday is literally, you guys, $899 a month. $899 a month. Like, oh my God. The price is going to be going up next week, and the monthly one-on-ones included will be going away. So definitely benefits you to jump in sooner rather than later. Again, if you have any questions, just reach out to me. I am going to go because it's Survivor night, so I'm going to go watch Survivor. I hope this episode was supportive for you. Sending so much love to all of you through eclipse season and everything that's coming up for you. I love you. Thank you so much for listening. If you did find this episode helpful, or somebody in your life that feel, like struggles with feeling like they really want to control things and struggles with trusting the process, then maybe send this episode to them if you think that it might benefit them and help them open to a new perspective, or they could use this practice, implement this practice into your daily life. And I can't wait to see all of the powerful effects that it has for you. And of course, as always, if you haven't already and you did like this episode, if you felt like it was valuable and you want to continue to support me in the podcast, then leave a little rate or review on Apple or Spotify, and that would mean the world. I love you so much. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to stop, take a deep breath, smile. Have a great rest of your day or night wherever you are, and I will talk to you next week. Bye.